Have you ever wondered what really happens when firefighters don't return from a call? When a wildfire hides something beyond the flames? When the legends we've heard since childhood become terrifyingly real? My name is Reeves. I was a captain in the Apache County, Arizona fire department for 17 years. I say was because after what happened that September night in 2019 in the White Mountains, I could never put on the uniform again. This is the transcript of my account. The official recording has been archived, classified, but the truth must be told. It was a Tuesday when dispatch received the call at 9:47 p.m. A wildfire was raging near the Fort Apache reservation. The voice on the other end was frantic, cracking. An elderly man who identified himself only as Thomas. He said he'd seen strange lights in the forest, and then the fire. But it wasn't the fire that scared him. He was repeating something in Apache, a language the operator didn't understand. We later learned he was saying, "The Gahe are awake. The mountain spirits are enraged." The call dropped before we could get his exact location. I commanded a team of 12 men and women, veterans, all of them. We had fought wildfires all over the Southwest. The White Mountains were our territory. We knew every trail, every ravine. But that night, there was something different in the air. He engineered a gradual buildup of tension with the Apache legend of the Gahe. I need to develop the atmosphere gradually, building tension. I'll describe the journey to the location, the strange signs that begin to appear, and organically introduce elements of the Apache legend of the Gahe, mountain spirits. The sky was red, not just from the sunset, but from something more. The flames danced on the mountain horizon, but they moved, wrongly, against the wind, as if they had a will of their own. As we approached along Forest Road 273, the radios began to fail. Static, interference, and then sounds. They weren't natural sounds. They were chants, low, rhythmic, as if coming from deep within the earth. Jennifer, my second in command, looked at me. Her eyes said what her mouth didn't. We should go back. But firefighters don't back down, especially not when there's an emergency call. We established our base of operations about half a kilometer from the fire line. The protocol was clear. Create a containment line, protect the inhabited areas, and let the fire burn itself out naturally in the dense forest where we couldn't safely reach. But that fire didn't follow the rules. It moved in circular patterns. Perfect. Impossible. As if someone were drawing on the forest floor with a giant torch. It was Jake who saw it first. Jake Thompson, 22, the youngest on the team. He pointed to a clearing between the burning trees. There was something there, a silhouette, tall, very tall, at least 10 feet tall. When we turned our flashlights in that direction, there was nothing, but we all feel it. The presence, watching, waiting. I knew the stories. I grew up near the reservation. My grandmother was part Apache, and she used to tell me about the Gahe, the mountain spirits. They weren't demons. Not exactly. They were guardians, protectors of the sacred lands. But when someone disrespected the mountain, when someone disturbed the ancient places, the Gahe came, and they didn't come to forgive. The Gahe appear as tall, masked figures adorned with sacred symbols. In ceremonies, Apaches dance in their costumes, in reverence. But encountering the real Gahe, that was something else. It meant the mountain was judging you. I tried to push those thoughts away. It was the heat, the smoke, the exhaustion. But then the owls began to sing. In Apache traditions, owls are messengers of death. Hearing their call near you means death is near. And that night, there were dozens of them, circled around us, their yellow eyes glowing through the smoke. At 11:15 p.m., we lost contact with the advance team. 4 firefighters, Rodriguez, Chen, Blackwood, and Sarah Mitchell, had gone to assess the fire's spread on the eastern flank. Their radios just went silent. I immediately organized a search party. Jennifer, Jake, Mike Dawson, and I. We followed protocol, but my stomach was in knots. Something was very wrong. We found their equipment about 200 meters from their last known position. Axes, helmets, radios, all left in a perfect line, neat and tidy, like an offering. But there were no footprints, no signs of a struggle, no blood. They just disappeared. And then we heard it, the singing, closer now, Much closer. Heshodi, Heshodi, I am waiting for you. Apache words that I couldn't fully understand, but that made every cell in my body scream to run. Mike shone his flashlight into the forest ahead. What we saw made us freeze. Figures. 5. No, 6 of them. Impossibly tall, dressed in what appeared to be animal skins and elaborate masks. Black, horned masks, decorated with symbols that glowed as if they were burning hot. Their bodies were painted with ash and what appeared to be blood. The Gahe, the spirits of the mountains. They moved in a circular dance around something in the center. The flames seemed to avoid them, curling around their bodies as if afraid to touch them. And in the center of the circle, our teammates, alive, but not moving, eyes open, still as statues, their faces contorted in expressions of absolute terror. "We need to get them out of there," Jake whispered, his voice shaking. But before I could respond, all the Gahe turned their masks towards us simultaneously, and they started walking towards us. We ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. We ran like we'd never run before in our lives. The training, the courage, the duty, it all evaporated in the face of those things. They didn't run. They didn't need to. They simply appeared in front of us, behind us, to the sides, as if they could bend space, moving through the forest like ghosts through walls. Mike stumbled. He fell. Before we could help him, one of the figures was upon him. That enormous hand, covered in ash and glowing symbols, touched his forehead. Mike stopped screaming. His eyes went blank, and he simply stood up and began walking back toward the circle of fire. Jennifer screamed his name, but I pulled her away. "We can't help him. We need to get out of here." Jake was ahead of me, his flashlight frantically shining the light. But then he tripped over something. A body. No, bodies. Dozens of them, in various stages of decay. Some recent, others ancient, very ancient. Some wearing clothes from decades ago, others centuries ago. Pioneer skins, 19th century military all arranged uniforms, in a perfect circle, surrounding a massive stone with carved symbols. Symbols that seemed to pulse with a light of their own, red as blood. "My God," Jennifer whispered. How many did they take?" I finally understood. It wasn't just a forest fire. This was sacred land. Land where the Apaches had held ceremonies for 1,000 years. And someone had desecrated that place. We later found out. A mining company had begun illegal operations in the area 3 weeks earlier. Explosives, excavations, destroying archaeological sites, awakening something that should have remained dormant. The Gahe were not demons. They were judges, executioners, and that fire was not natural. It was theirs, a purification, a punishment, and we, simply by responding to an emergency call, had become part of their trial. "We have to get off the mountain," I said. "Now." But when we looked around, we realized we were surrounded. Dozens of tall figures, all motionless, all watching us through those terrifying masks. And then one of them spoke, not with words, not with sounds. The voice came from inside my head, ancient, deep, carrying the weight of 1,000 years. "You have mountain blood. You may leave, but never return. Never bring others. This land is now beyond your world." I grabbed Jennifer and Jake and ran. We managed to catch up with the trucks. Somehow, we drove non-stop all the way to the town of White River on the reservation. When we looked back, the flames were gone, completely, as if they had never been there. Rescue teams found our companions 3 days later. They were all alive, but none of them remember anything. Their last thoughts were of heading into the forest. Then, emptiness. The medical tests showed physically nothing. They were perfect, but his eyes were never the same. Empty, distant, as if part of them was still there, on the mountain. The area was declared a risk zone and closed to the public, officially, due to geological instability caused by illegal mining operations. The company was fined and shut down, but I know the truth. That mountain is no longer ours. It never was, really. We've simply forgotten. We've forgotten that there are places in this world that don't belong to us. Places where ancient legends still live, where guardians still watch. And when you disturb these places, they respond. I left the fire department soon after. Jennifer did too. Jake moved to Florida, as far away from the mountains as he could get. Sometimes I still hear the chants, low, distant, especially when the wind blows from the west. And I never, ever went back to that mountain. If you're listening to this story, understand one thing. Not every fire can be put out. Not every darkness can be illuminated. And not every legend is just a story. Arizona's White Mountains are still there, still burning. Not with fire you can see, but with something older, deeper. And the Gahe still walk there, waiting, watching, protecting what has always been theirs. Don't go looking for them, please, because if you find them, you will never be the same. If you'd like to learn more true stories of unexplained events faced by rescue and emergency teams, download our exclusive ebook, Calls from Beyond, Real Stories from 911 Operators, available at the link pinned in the comments. Stories that should never have been told, but need to be heard. Real historical note: the Gahe, also known as Gan or mountain spirits, are real entities in Apache mythology. They are sacred spirits that inhabit mountains and caves, serving as intermediaries between humans and divine power. In traditional Apache ceremonies, dancers dressed as Gahe perform healing and protection rituals. The Gahe are considered both benevolent and dangerous. They protect those who respect sacred land, but can severely punish those who desecrate it. This legend remains a vital part of Apache culture to this day.